In the 15th century, the shogun Ashikaga, Yoshimasa sent a beloved Chinese tea bowl back to China. It had broken, and he wanted it repaired. The bowl came back repaired, held together with metal staples. The way damaged ceramics were fixed everywhere in the world at that time. Functional. Restored more or less to what it had been, Yoshimasa was not satisfied. Not because the repair had failed, but because something about it felt wrong. The bowl had been made whole again, but in the process, it had been made lesser. The staples announced the break as an embarrassment, something that had happened to the bowl and been covered over. The damage was still visible. But it was now shameful rather than simply true. He sent it to Japanese craftsmen with a different instruction. Do not hide the damage. Do something else. What they did was mix lacquer with powdered gold and use it to seal the cracks. The break did not disappear. It became gold. The lines where the bowl had shattered ran across its surface. Like rivers on a map, turned luminous, made permanent in the most beautiful material available. The bowl was not restored to what it had been. It became something it could not have been without breaking. That practice is called Kintsugi, golden joinery, and it contains, I think, one of the most quietly radical ideas about what it means to be a person that any culture has ever produced. Let me tell you what Kintsugi is not, because I think the Western version of this idea misses something important. The popular version of Kintsugi, as it has traveled into self-help culture, tends to go like this. Your scars are beautiful. Your breakage is proof of your strength. The cracks show that you survived. This is not wrong exactly, but it is incomplete. It turns Kintsugi into an affirmation, a reframe, a way of feeling better about the things that happened to you. Kintsugi is something more specific than that. It is not a claim about how you should feel about your breaks. It is a claim about what your breaks are, about what they do to an object or a person, and why hiding them misrepresents something true. The insight is not your cracks are beautiful despite being cracks. The insight is your cracks are part of what you are now, and what you are now cannot be accurately described without them. The bowl with gold seams is not the original bowl plus some damage. It is a different object, one that contains the original bowl's history, the history of its breaking and the history of its repair. Those are not three separate things. They are one continuous thing, and removing any part of that story would not restore the bowl. It would make something false. This is what the metal staples got wrong. They tried to say the break did not happen. They were embarrassed by the history. Kintsugi says the break happened, and here is exactly where, and the bowl is more itself for making that visible. There is a Western concept that seems similar to Kintsugi, but is actually its opposite: resilience. Resilience, as it is usually defined, is the ability to bounce back, to return to your original state after difficulty, to recover, restore, resume. The implicit model is that the original state was the correct one, and that difficulty is something to be gotten through on the way back to it. The language of resilience is full of this bounce back. Recover. Return. The person who has been through something hard is being guided back toward who they were before it happened. The goal is to eventually be able to say, I went through something, but I am essentially the same person I was before. Kintsugi does not work this way. It does not guide the bowl back toward what it was before it broke. It guides the bowl forward through the break into something the break made possible. The gold does not undo the damage. It completes a transformation that the damage began. The bowl that emerges is not the original bowl recovered. It is a new object, older, more particular, more specific in its history, and the cracks that run through it are not the record of something that went wrong. They are the record of something that happened, which is not the same thing. Apply this to a person, and you begin to see what Kintsugi is really saying. Most of us carry something that we wish had not happened, a relationship that ended in damage, to us or to someone else, a period of our life when we were not who we wanted to be, a failure that changed the direction we had planned on, a loss that we cannot think about directly, only around the edges. The conventional approach to these things is to process them, work through them, and then leave them behind. The goal is wholeness, which is implicitly defined as the state you would be in if those things had not happened. Kintsugi offers a different definition of wholeness. Wholeness is not the absence of damage. Wholeness is the honest integration of everything that has happened, including the breaks, into a coherent, visible whole. Not hidden, not covered over, carried forward, made visible, made part of the shape of who you are. This is not easy. It requires something harder than resilience. Resilience asks you to recover. Kintsugi asks you to incorporate, to let the break become part of your surface, something a person looking at you closely could trace and say, here is where something happened. This is what it left. There is a Japanese aesthetic concept that underlies Kintsugi, the idea that objects become more interesting, not less, as they accumulate history. In the Western design tradition, the ideal object is pristine, new, unmarked. The used, the worn, the repaired are lesser versions of the original. We describe things as being in mint condition, meaning no one has ever touched them. Nothing has ever happened to them, as the highest standard of value. In the Japanese tradition of wabi-sabi, this is reversed. The used bowl with its asymmetries, its marks of handling, its slight worn quality is more interesting than the pristine one. It has been somewhere. It has a relationship with the people who used it. Its surface tells a story that the factory new version cannot. Kintsugi takes this one step further. It says even the most dramatic form of history. The history of complete destruction and reconstruction does not diminish the object. It enlarges it. The bowl with gold seams has more story, not less. More presence, more to look at, more to consider. The question Kintsugi asks, applied to people, is this: what if the things that happened to you, the things you most wish had not happened, are part of what makes you worth knowing, not in spite of those things. Through them, because of the particular shape that breaking and repairing left behind, which no one else has. There is something about this idea that is genuinely difficult. It asks you to resist the very natural impulse, to present yourself as less damaged than you are, to show people the best version, the version in which nothing has gone wrong, or the problems have been resolved and are no longer visible. To be as much as possible mint condition. This impulse is understandable. In most social contexts, damage is penalized. We admire people who seem to have it together, who are whole, capable, unmarked by difficulty. To reveal the cracks feels like a risk, and sometimes it is. But consider what you lose by hiding them. The people who know only your pristine surface can only know a version of you that does not fully exist. They are in a relationship with something curated, not something real. The intimacy available between two people who have only shown each other. Their best surfaces is limited by exactly that, by the surfaces which do not tell the whole story. Kintsugi says the opposite. The most interesting version of you is not the version with the cracks hidden. It is the version with the cracks made visible, made coherent, made meaningful, integrated into the surface rather than denied. This is not a call to exhibit your damage or perform your wounds. The gold seams on a Kintsugi bowl are not there to shock or to demand attention. They are simply there. They are part of what the bowl is. You notice them when you look carefully, and when you do, you understand something about the object that the surface alone could not have told you. Kintsugi is the practice of being a person other people can look at carefully and understand, of not requiring them to see only the pristine surface, of making the history visible enough that the whole thing, the original form, the breaking, the repair, makes sense as one continuous story. The bowl that Ashikaga Yoshimasa sent back to Japan was repaired with gold hundreds of years ago. It still exists. You can look at it. And what is remarkable is that the gold seams are not, to the eye, scars. They are features. They are part of what the bowl is. Without them, it would be a beautiful, but ordinary tea bowl from 15th century China. With them, it is an object with a history that changed how an entire culture thinks about breakage and value, and what it means to repair something. It would be worth more by any conventional measure if it had never broken. It would also be less interesting, less specific, less itself. Your breaks are not the opposite of your wholeness. They are the lines where the gold goes. If this way of thinking speaks to you, follow this channel. There is more Japanese wisdom where this came from.